Lisa Steele is a fifth-generation chicken keeper and egg expert, well recognized as the creative force behind Fresh Eggs Daily, the most popular destination for natural poultry keeping advice on the internet, and one of the most influential players in the backyard chicken keeping community. Dubbed Queen of the Coop by the media, Lisa has been dishing out advice on raising chickens, ducks, and geese naturally via her blog and social media platform, Fresh Eggs Daily, for more than a decade. Welcome to the program, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's see if you can offer some advice to us and our listeners, and we thank you for the time you're going to give us here. What are 3 things people should be doing now in the fall if their goal is to get chickens in the spring?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously with any animal, it should not be just kind of on a whim or, a snap judgment. So
which some people do that. They think, oh, this is cute, and they take it home and they got a mess on their hands.
They do. And, the chicks are cute. And in the spring, it's hard to see them and not bring them home. So now is the time to be researching different breeds, talking to other people who have chickens maybe in your area, finding some of the challenges that they've been facing climate-wise and, predator-wise, just basically doing a lot of research, taking the time to know exactly what you're getting into because they are live animals and, they don't take a ton of time, but it's a commitment. I don't know if that was 3 things, but
that's fine. And that's the thing, with anything, whether you're buying a car, buying land, buying a house, you want to talk to people who's already done it so you don't make the mistakes that they did. And the same thing with chickens. And the thing is, you speak about different breeds. One size doesn't fit all. There's some that can tolerate heat better and cold better than others. And there's a whole gamut of things that it's just not, oh, that's cute, let's bring it home. It's not a puppy. This is, it's a big thing.
Exactly. And people get chickens for different reasons. Some people don't care what color eggs they lay. Other people, definitely want a chicken that lays blue eggs. But you're right. The climate is really probably the most important thing. And more so if you're in the South. For those of us in the cold climates, pretty much any chicken is going to do fine. But if you live in a warm climate, it's really important to look at some of the heat tolerant breeds because chickens do not handle heat very well at all.
Now, is it true that the chickens, when it's cold, they'll decrease in egg production? Is it the same when it's extremely hot that they'll shut down too?
Well, it is, but it's really the shorter days that slow the production down because they need about 14 to 16 hours of daylight to stimulate their ovary to release an egg yolk, which then becomes the egg. So if they're not getting that daylight, they're not laying eggs. But yes, extreme cold, extreme heat, stress. If it rains that day, there's a lot of things that make a chicken not lay an egg.
And that's why we see some videos and pictures of the coop being extremely bright. Is that the mimicking of the sun to get that production in sync and keep making eggs?
Yes. Some people do light their coops through the winter to force the chickens to lay. It's what the commercial hen houses do. Obviously, they're running a business. They need the chickens to lay year round, so they add artificial light. Correct.
Oh, that's really interesting. So what are 2 reasons why you would recommend people raising chickens and 2 reasons why perhaps they should not raise chickens?
Obviously, eggs. Number 1 reason, they're fresh. You know where they come from. You know what the chickens are eating that are laying those eggs. You know that chickens are happy. There's all kinds of reasons to really love fresh eggs. But in addition to that, chickens just make really good pets. I think people are surprised how friendly they are, how social they are. And for a lot of people, they're a lot more manageable than even a dog, say, because they're just, smaller for older people or, kids, maybe not as intimidating. As reasons not to get chickens, it's really hard because I'm so pro-chicken.
Right.
But I would say, if you're not willing to make the commitment, you can't just up and leave. You can, but it takes some prior thought. You can't just go away for the week or the weekend or, think that you're just going to have them for a year or 2. Chickens can live for 10 or 12 years. So if you don't have the plan for them, well past their laying age, then maybe it's something that you shouldn't do and you should just find a neighbor or a farmer's market to buy your eggs at.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you're going to expect to get chickens and you've done the research you need to do, you got to have at least 2 because you just can't have one because they need that companionship. Otherwise, they can literally get depressed and not produce eggs. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they're flock animals. It makes me sad when I see someone on social media that has, just a duck that's following their child around, or a chicken that lives in the house and watches television, with their kids. I mean, they're flock animals. 2 at a bare minimum, I would say even better. 3, 5 is even better because, stuff happens and
Right.
you don't want to, just have 2 and one happens to when you lose one and now you've got 1 chicken, so yeah, 5 or 6, I think, is a really good starter flock size and no more difficult to care for than 1.
No,
so it's really not that much more of a burden.
No, I grew up on a livestock farm, cattle and hogs. We didn't. That was a business. We didn't name animals. Do you name your chickens?
Well, yes, because otherwise they wouldn't know which one I was talking to.
Okay.
You have to name your chickens.
Okay, I did not know. We did not have chickens, so that was not.
But you can get a chicken for your chicken and then get a chicken for that chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't eat them. We eat their eggs, but they're pets, first and foremost.
Right. And there's a certain time frame in which their egg production either it declines or stops altogether. Let's talk about that aspect of it. What happens then? What do you do in that realm of, okay, this chicken's old and what do we do?
Yeah. I keep feeding them and talking to them, and they'll still eat bugs. They eat a lot of ticks. They produce a lot of manure. The older hens make great moms. They're not as active, so they'll sit on a nest for 3 weeks and hatch out baby chicks for you. Older hens really have a great place in the flock. They only lay for 2 or 3 years well, and then they start to decline in production, but yeah, they're still great additions to any flock. And they don't eat that much.
And I ask you that because in the livestock and the world I grew up in, once the animal could no longer produce, it was moved on down the road, and we brought another animal in because it was a business. We had to make things happen.
Of course.
Okay.
And for people who have a small yard, or you can only have 5 chickens, your choices might be a little bit different. We are not limited as to how many chickens we can have. We have tons of space. So I let them live out their life. They usually live to be 9 or 10 years old. But, they live a happy life, and then they just, go in their sleep one night peacefully. So, yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So you tell us about your newest book. It's called The Fresh Eggs Daily Cookbook. What can our listeners expect? I mean, besides recipes, what else is some good information in there?
Yeah, this was a really fun book to write because it was different. I had written a whole bunch of books on raising chickens, and writing a cookbook was something new and exciting, and I thought it would appeal to not just people who have chickens, but really anybody who eats eggs. There's a great kind of little mini memoir in the beginning. A lot of people say, how did you start doing this? And, what was your background? So there's that. And then just a whole bunch of basic egg stuff, like how should you store eggs? Do you need to wash them? Do they need to be refrigerated? Do the different colors taste different? Just kind of all the egg trivia that maybe the average person doesn't know.
Well, I'll throw one out at you. When people go buy eggs from their local supermarket, those eggs are not very fresh, are they?
Correct. Yeah.
What are we looking at? 60, 90 days since the time, give or take?
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes just for fun, I'll go to the grocery store and I'll check because there's a code on the end of the carton, so you can tell when those eggs are put in the carton.
Okay.
And very often 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and they were probably laid a few days before they were put in the carton, and then you buy them, you bring them home, they're in your fridge for 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, the weeks start to add up. Eggs do last a really long time, and they don't necessarily lose a lot of nutrition, but they lose quality. Mm-hmm. So they lose a lot of moisture. The membranes kind of get a little bit thinner, so if you crack the egg into a pan, it's going to spread out more, whereas a fresh egg will just kind of hold together. So you do lose a lot of egg quality as the egg ages. And also bacteria. If there is any bacteria in that egg, it's going to multiply as the egg gets older, so there's more chance of salmonella or things like that.
Well, it's not very appealing to pick up an egg that has been in the fridge and it sounds like very wet jello inside of it. That's usually not a good sign that, this is going to be a wonderful omelet we're going to have here. It's
right.
not very good.
So how can people use chicken manure now for fall in their gardens, or for their fall gardens?
Right. Yeah. So I do a good coop cleaning at the end of the summer because I want the coop to be nice and, fresh bedding and everything for the winter. That straw and manure and feathers and everything, I put it right over my garlic. Garlic, really loves a lot of nutrients, and the garlic is going to sit there all winter doing its thing. We don't pull that till probably July. And then rhubarb, also a very heavy feeder. So I mulch my rhubarb. You can mulch your berry bushes. Pretty much anything that you want to overwinter, you can use that mulch, which is basically decomposed chicken manure. You don't want to put it on your garden in the spring because it's hot. It's going to burn your plants. It's got a very high nitrogen level. So you don't want to clean your coop out in the spring and throw the manure right on your garden. So you want to compost it. But using it in the fall, because you're not going to be harvesting anything for 6 months at least, it gives the manure time to age, everything to decompose more. The pathogens die. It's just a great fall over winter type mulch to use.
Well, how frequently do you advise people to clean their coop? I know there's some variables, how many chickens and all this stuff, but is there kind of a guideline, do it this many times a
year? When it smells. Okay. I mean, I don't do it very often. I encourage my chickens to be outside all day, so they're really only inside to sleep and lay eggs. So if that's the case, it doesn't really get dirty very fast. It's as needed. Your nose will tell you if you even a hint of ammonia, it's time to clean that coop. Some people probably clean it weekly, I'm sure. But actually it's kind of beneficial, especially in the winter, to leave some of that coop litter because beneficial microbes develop. And there's actually studies been done that it's actually beneficial to almost compost inside your coop for the winter. Compost, it creates heat. Yeah. Exactly. It creates heat and it's actually beneficial. So that's a method, the deep litter method, that I have used for years, and it's wonderful. It saves time, it saves energy, saves money, and it actually is beneficial.
Now, when your neck of the woods, I know it's going to vary in different areas, but what are some of the biggest predators that you have to be conscious of that could go after your chickens at any given time?
I mean, coyotes and fox and, things like that. But honestly, what terrifies me is weasels. The big predators are kind of easy to keep out. Mm-hmm. It's the small ones that are going to get in through the tiniest little hole, and a weasel will kill all your chickens. I mean, they just kind of kill for sport. But we've got everything. We've got fisher cats. We have owls and eagles and neighbors' dogs and raccoons. And I mean, pretty much anything that walks or flies will kill your chickens if given the chance.
That's
unfortunately.
Yeah, is unfortunate. So are there any specific crops that you grow for your flock?
I do grow a lot of garlic for them because I add that to their water. It's great for their immune systems and their respiratory systems. I grow a ton of herbs. The chickens have their own herb garden. They can go in and nibble and munch and take dust baths, so they've got lavender and rosemary and basil and parsley and oregano, and they just really seem to enjoy that. And then, of course, I give them, all our kitchen scraps pretty much. And then, anything from the garden that, is half bug eaten, or when you've got too many zucchinis. I mean, chickens will eat almost anything. There's very little that they shouldn't eat. So pretty much anything in the garden is going to be fair game. All your squash and pumpkins and, peas and beans, pretty much anything.
So I'm curious with, Halloween coming soon, many people are taking their pumpkins or taking a pumpkin and then they're kind of allowing their chickens to peck a jack-o'-lantern. Have you tried that?
I have not. I have seen that. I have to say I'm not very up on the latest trends, so I usually don't see them until months later. But I thought it would be kind of fun to try this year to see if that would would work because they do love pumpkin. I mean, if you leave them a pumpkin, they will eat the entire thing. So it's kind of a fun activity for them.
Yeah. If we'll have to watch your Instagram. Maybe you'll post it if you decide to do it.
Great. Now the pressure is on.
No pressure, no pressure. Just hopefully if you do, you do post it. So
Of course, I post everything.
So speaking of Instagram, how do our listeners know how to find you and all of your great information and all of your fun chicken posts?
Yeah, absolutely. Super easy. At Fresh Eggs Daily on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. My blog is fresheggsdaily.com. So basically, if you just type in Fresh Eggs Daily, I'll pop up.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for the time and the very knowledgeable level of information you provided us in this short period of time. Thank you so much for that, and we appreciate it very much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
For more information, please visit the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com.